Skinny Corp guide to the do first work ethic.
So we started about 9 years ago, and we're going to talk about the past 9 years and how the way that we got things done changed over that time period, because we started as a personal project and we never intended really for this to grow to the size that it is today. So the way that we did things has changed significantly since the beginning. So we thought that would be interesting for you guys to hear.
So normally we do these intro screens where we show who we are, and we thought that this one would be particularly relevant because we took these pictures of ourselves at 3 o'clock in the morning a couple of versions ago when we were working on Threadless. And I just felt that it was pretty indicative of what our work style is like. We tend to not be very serious. We definitely take time out to take really dumb pictures. And actually, I think during the course of that night, we have a blow dart gun in our office, like everyone does, and we decided it would be a good idea to go outside and shake up cans of soda and shoot blow darts at them. So that was immediately following these pictures. So it's just kind of, we're trying to frame how we work, which kind of, goes into this. Normally when we're asked to speak, we get, we do the whole, the what, right? So we really didn't want to focus on the what, because if you're interested in the what, there's lots of things online that you can find out about us.
This is actually the first office. That's not like a picture we found on the internet. This is my apartment in 2000, and I literally would take my computer and put it in front of the front door so that I would not leave. And I would just work like nonstop, just making this stuff happen, and it was just for fun. I wasn't trying to even build a business. This was just like, I love making websites, and I love being a member of art communities online, and it was just a really fun time. 2000 to 2004 was kind of the period where we had no idea that Threadless had the potential that it had. And so the reasons for us doing the work was just to do something fun and exciting for other people that we knew. And from 2000 to 2002, I was working a full-time job. I was going to school part-time. I did not take a penny of any sale that came in of a t-shirt. Every penny that came in I used to print more t-shirts. And by 2002, we realized that we could build websites for clients, and we actually quit our jobs and went off on our own and started a company that built websites for clients. We didn't leave our jobs to do Threadless. So right, 2002 to 2004 was we were working on our own.
Right. Yeah, 2002 is actually where I came in, because we were both working. We were friends, but we were both working separate jobs. And when he left his job, I was laid off and decided to just go and work in their office. So, we really focused on, me coming from the agency world. I was lucky enough to become friends with some of the guys who own the agency who also decided to leave after the small agency that I was a part of was acquired. So we really just kind of we worked for every agency, and at the time, our focus and working on Threadless was kind of twofold. One, we wanted to sort of maintain the community and keep things moving along, but at the same time, it also served to prove to our potential clients that we could build e-commerce websites, that we knew how to use Flash, all of these sort of things. So it became like a working model. So, it was becoming this business by accident. So, sort of like what Jake was saying earlier, is this entire time, this was a total just fun personal side project for everyone involved.
Yeah. So the next slide, this was one thing that we noticed in thinking back. We weren't making changes to Threadless based on, we think that if we make this change, we could sell more t-shirts or anything like that. It was 100% reactive to what the community wanted. And, it was completely a community project. So if people were saying, I think that you guys need to print on this t-shirt over this t-shirt, we would absolutely do that, no questions asked. It was just trying to be the coolest thing that we could be for the community. That's absolutely.
And this actually was a period of time that we kind of started to really catch our stride in our kind of get shit done attitude, because we didn't really need Threadless to do anything for us. It wasn't paying our bills. It wasn't getting us attention. It was basically serving to just be this cool thing for this small group of people. And it grew and stuff like that, but really there was no there were no clear-cut consequences of what would have happened if we would have had some like radical idea and just decided to, completely change the idea of the site. So like that says, we really learned to be 100% reactive to our own ideas.
So yeah, don't know how to do it, work it out. I mean, this is like, I'm a web designer and I know a little bit about programming, but we make t-shirts. And I did that by myself in the beginning, working out of my apartment. And the way that, I guess if I had this idea, I want to make t-shirts, but I knew nothing about it. I was 20 years old. And so the way I did it is I just opened up the phone book and found a screen printer locally. And there was no, I guess it's just important to note that there was like no fear in trying to figure things out. It was just, I had the confidence to kind of like say, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I need to figure it out and just do it. There was things from printing t-shirts, from processing credit card numbers, to like shipping orders, all these kind of things we just figured out as we went. In the beginning, we actually processed our credit card numbers over the phone because that's the only way I could, I Googled, if Google was even the search then, I don't know. But I found out how you could actually you could call a 1-800 number, type in the credit card number, and it would charge their account. So
this was really started, my background's in print design. I was not a web designer. I became a web designer because I built a website to showcase my print work, and everyone said, wow, that's a great website. And nobody said anything about the print work. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I can do this. So I started playing around with it, but a lot of the tools and being an early web designer meant that I needed to I knew early on that if I was going to work with programmers, that I needed to at least understand what they were doing. So part of me learning how to be a web designer was, tackling O'Reilly, HTML, CSS, PHP books. Basically I had no idea what I was reading, but I was working my way through it all, so at least I could understand it so I can learn to design for it. And that was my Friday nights, it was my Saturday nights, it was, any time, I was not going out, I was not hanging out with friends, I was just getting it done. And that was just a period of time that it was important for me to just work it out, because I knew that my choices were figure this out or go back to kind of agency hell, which I really was not going to, I wasn't going to do that.
When I was, actually go back, because when I was 16, my dad got us Prodigy dial-up internet, and my first thing that I kind of did, within the first week of having this, is I went to a website and I'm like, how the hell did people do this? And I just was playing around with all the menus and I found view source. And that's how I learned HTML, was just, I guess, the curiosity of figuring out how these things work. And then right after that, just went door to door to all the businesses in my city and asked if they wanted me to make them a website for free. In 1996.
So things started to change for the company in 2004, 2006. The biggest change is that January of 2004, we fired all of our clients. We kind of knew throughout 2003 that we needed to do something because we were competing for our own time by working on Threadless full-time and taking on projects full-time, and it was kind of a scary notion where no clients generally equals no money. So fired everyone, gave the good ones to our friends who were starting small things, and this became, 2004 was the year that we were on our own. So we kind of wanted to talk about what changed between 2004 to 2006.
So yeah, we started to realize that Threadless has this huge potential. This was also around the time that MIT asked us to come speak to a group of people, and we learned that there's words for what we were doing, like user innovation and crowdsourcing and all these things. So, and we were looking at Threadless and we were actually seeing a significant, revenue stream coming in and thinking that this is something that we could actually do the rest of our lives.
Yeah, this was, the MIT thing was interesting, particularly because this is a period of time where we just kept our heads down and worked. Especially right in the beginning of 2004, it was like gung-ho, all Threadless. And then MIT's like, hey, come and talk to us about Threadless. And we're just like, okay, we didn't really know what to expect. We showed up there. We were expected to give a presentation because apparently that's an expectation when you get asked to speak, which we didn't know. So Eric von Hippel from MIT, he's a brilliant guy, and he, in introducing us, told everyone what we did, which was good because we wouldn't have been able to do that. So we kind of went from there and started realizing that a lot of the things that we worked in a way that made sense for us. We didn't know how to do things, so we just went ahead and did them. We didn't try and look for answers. I think it was to our benefit that we didn't go to business school or we weren't in art school for very long, because we really didn't have this basis of knowledge that said, I need to get this done, so here's the way I learned how to do it. It was just, all right, well, we're staying up all night and we're going to figure this one out. So we actually sort of fell into what they called at the time user innovation, which Jeff Howe went on to coin the term crowdsourcing. So we were doing crowdsourcing and applying a lot of these like Web 2.0 principles just because it made sense to us, and this wasn't like on paper some brilliant business plan and like, yes, we're going to take over the world with this piece of paper that has brilliant ideas. I mean, we just kind of like rocked it, and it just happened to sort of coincide with something that was already going on.
So we're a real company and we need real help. I guess another reason why we needed to get proactive is we were starting to see the company kind of grow faster than we can keep up with it. So an example of that would be, I think in December of '05, we had a Christmas sale and we sold so many t-shirts that it would take you a month before we'd ship your order, because we were just so bogged down in orders. And so we needed to get proactive about these things. We needed to say, okay, if our Christmas sale is this successful, we need to be set up to be able to ship those orders. And we didn't really feel like we could do it 100% on our own, and we didn't want to just outsource everything. So we were looking at getting somebody else invested in the company who could kind of help us out with these things.
And along the way of because that sort of like leads into the last part. But along the way, we realized there was 3 of us, and we had a couple of people helping us part-time shipping orders. But this was an interesting time in our company, and if any of you guys have companies that were smaller and then grew a little bit, is you start to realize how many things you try and accomplish all by yourself, and you start peeling off portions of your job that fill full-time jobs, and those people are busy. And you realize that you could like peel off all these layers, and it doesn't make you any less busy. You could just focus more, and then these other people can focus on those things. So you realize that as you start to hire more people, you realize how little focus you could give to every single thing. So this was a time that we weren't answering customer service emails by ourselves anymore, because we were like, hey, maybe we should hire somebody to deal with the 500 emails that come in per day, for customer service, on top of all of the other emails that we had to deal with. So basically, at this point, we probably had like 20 people, maybe a little bit less, and things were starting to get pretty busy. But the one thing that we really wanted to like keep in mind at the time was keeping it simple and doing it ourselves. You should talk about building the stuff.
Yeah, even when we were hiring and stuff, we were always kind of in this mindset where we can do it. Even though it's not me personally doing it all, we can do it ourselves and figure it out. And even our fulfillment software in our warehouse, we wrote ourselves. We don't use third-party software for hardly anything at all. We figure out all these like interesting ways to do things that we realize are just not the way things are done.
Which creates a problem, though, I will say. In the times that we do need to integrate with third-party software, we get those reps in, and they're like, what the hell is going on here? Because
we are optimized for shipping t-shirts. Like, our warehouse is just, it's pretty sweet right now. Because we did it ourselves, and we know what our own problems are, so we can solve them.
Yeah, it's always worth your effort to, obviously it's worth your effort to keep things uncomplicated, but doing it yourself, the only time that I would really ever have somebody else do it for me is if it was so far outside of my ability or skill set that I knew that me being a part of it would actually be a detriment to the project. Otherwise, there's plenty of time in the day to get things done. Weekends are just days that you don't technically have to go to work, like physically be at your job. It doesn't mean that you can't be working. This is still, to this day, stuff that we do. I still work on weekends. The company's almost 10 years old at this point. Because we don't want to hire extra people to do the work that we can get done, because it just keeps it, the more people you have, and we were learning this, we're almost at like 60 people now, it gets complicated, and you spend time worrying about the operations of your company and not as much time focusing on actually working. So doing it yourself is a super important thing. It's a good takeaway.
But there were some problems during this time. When we realized what we were doing, with Threadless, we also, and we fired all our clients, we also saw opportunity to do it in different ways. So we started up like a music project. We started up a
drink recipe
website. Yeah, we started up a pattern, which is still around today, and it's pretty cool. nakedandangry.com.
We started up a bumper sticker company for people who park poorly. They're low tax stickers that say "I park like an idiot," and you can put them on other people's cars.
So when we fired our clients, we thought, we're going to focus on Threadless full time and do this. But then we started sprouting up all these other projects, which I think were really good for us to do, and we still are doing them today. But I think we had a little bit too large of ambitions.
Yeah, and that's sort of like is telling of your work practices. We were in client mode, so once we didn't have any clients anymore, working on Threadless full time felt completely unnatural. It's sort of like, I don't know about you guys, but like I can't go on vacation. Like I can't relax. I can't turn my brain off. So only going down to one project, it was like, this is impossible. We need to create more things to do, because we didn't take the time to look at Threadless and see what can we do. We were just looking at the current size of the project and saying, we've got all this great time, and like, hell, let's crowdsource everything. So so we became our worst enemy. But I think the positive of that is a couple of the projects failed. And I think that was really good for us, because when you do client work, failure is kind of catastrophic. So you really do everything you can do to not fail. When you're working on your own projects, failure is awesome. And we didn't realize that until 15 Megs of Fame, which is our music project, failed. And you realize you put a ton of time, a ton of energy, money, because you're obviously getting paid a salary. And when you realize you basically got checkmated and there's just nothing you can do except for stop the project, you learn so much. And I think that learning from failure is just such an important thing. So when you're working on your own projects, don't be afraid to kind of like go out on a limb on certain projects, because if they do fail, you're going to end up learning a ton from it anyways. Kind of how we do things now, and this is including 2006 when we took a minority investment, not because we needed money, but because we were making a lot of money and were not able to keep the business in sort of like this growing mode without crushing under our own weight, because we, in a lot of respects, had no idea what we were doing. So we really needed to kind of like tap into this network from our investors. So they bought into us, and we benefited from all of their business expertise. So about getting realistic and staying scrappy is there's a lot of things that we've done since 2006 up until now. Jake stepped down as CEO, which was a realistic decision, because I don't think that Jake could be a CEO at
any other company.
So it made sense to bring in a CEO. We've since hired a VP of operations, a VP of marketing, people who actually belong in a company our size. But if you come and hang out at our company, you could line every single person in a row and you would have no idea who anybody was. Because the idea is that we're still a scrappy company. We hire people that fit within our company. And we need to remember how we worked in 2004 and 2002 and kind of had that like, let's just get shit done attitude.
Yeah, that's the one thing that has really spanned the entire period that we've been in business, is the get it done attitude, and it kind of speaks to the scrappiness of just like figuring out what you need to do and just moving forward with it. Don't like over negotiate every point and debate whether or not it's going to return so much, I guess kind of like figure out what is realistic to do. Put a little bit of thought into that, but then just do it.
And then this came from our VP of operations, which has been like our mantra this year, which is brutal prioritization and maniacal focus, which is sort of our way of saying, let's just get real and look at the stuff that we're doing and see what stuff works and see what stuff doesn't, and we're just going to go through it like with a machete. And the stuff that isn't working, we just need to pull the plug on so we have that time. Because even as a 60-person company, there's companies that we know that have projects our size and teams 3 times the size. So in staying scrappy and still wanting to do a lot of things ourselves, we really, really need to get brutal with how we prioritize our tasks. So that's what the machine guns are about. Like coming up with a reason list is a creative process. And it's really easy, like Seth was talking about, like others were talking about, it's really easy to come up with a list of a million reasons why you're just not ready to get it done. And you just need to take that first step, because if you have that list of a million reasons that it's not ready, by taking that first step, that list is going to turn into a million ways to make it better. And we will always take that first step. Even if the first thing that we release, we're like, wow, this sucks. Because that's okay, because we're going to start to get feedback from people, and that creates a sense of urgency, because by pushing it forward, you're just never going to get it done, and then you're wasting time coming up with all of the reasons why you haven't taken that first step. So taking that first step is super important. And thanks for listening.